All right, so welcome everybody. Today we're joined by Barry Kreczmer. He's a parishioner here at St. Patrick, and we're just delighted to have him. Last week we began our series of just introducing you to people in our parish who have expertise in various areas that during these uncertain times of COVID and all this stuff that's going on, they might be able to help us with things, and they might be able to answer some important questions we might have. And so this week we have Barry Kreczmer. He's a parishioner, and we're just delighted to have him with us. So Barry, as we get started, before we maybe jump into some questions, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Thank you, Monsignor, and thanks so much for doing this. And everybody, I know at least in our house, they're enjoying the videos and especially the stir the pot. I think that's one of the most popular right now. So it's great entertainment, and people are actually learning things. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've been parishioners. I think sometime in the 2000s. It was back when the Crane Road project was going on. So I know we've been there long enough that my wife had committed us to some support for that project.
Okay.
And as you know, we got our two youngest go to the school.
Yep.
At least for another 15, 20 days, and then one of them's done.
Yeah, it's been great having him in class. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so you've been here. You got your wife, your two kids, and you've been here at St. Pat's. Where were you? Let's say, where were you born and raised? What part of any other part of the country?
Yep, just like anyone else from the Midwest. We were born here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Curse those grandparents that they couldn't go somewhere, like warm year-round.
Yeah, it's like in my family, myself. I've got 6 brothers and sisters. Nobody moved away. We're all in the area. So I grew up in this parish. All my siblings are in this area. So, and then that's a great thing because we get to see each other. So it makes for a lot of fun visits. And so St. Pat's is a great home to so many people, and we're like a family, and we, especially in times of crisis or difficulty, we want to help each other. And so as like last week, we had somebody with us with certain expertise. This week, I've kind of asked you to join us because you're in the banking field. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm in the banking industry. I was kind of born and raised into it. My father was in banking. Actually, my grandmother was in banking. I graduated college and started on a different path, and then I had to get a real job, and I thought, well, I'm not qualified to do anything. I'll go into banking.
Oh.
So I've been in banking since '93. Worked for 3 different banks. Now I work for a local bank here in South Elgin. Literally, I don't have that good of a throwing arm, but somebody could probably throw a stone between here and the church.
Yeah.
Crane Road and hit it. So I've been here since, almost 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So every time I go to Caputus, I see it. I should stop in there and say hi to you. And so you're in the banking field, and you're very good at what you do. You're also a member. I should tell people this. Barry's also a member of our parish finance council, and so his expertise, along with all the other people on our council, the men and women on our council, has been invaluable just throughout, but especially now in this time when we kind of have to be a little bit more creative, and we have to kind of dig down deep to see which way we should be going, what kind of decisions we should be making. And so a lot of people right now might be worried about their jobs. Maybe they're out of work already. They've been laid off. They've been furloughed. Their companies have shut their doors. They've had their pay cut. This is we've been in some really blessed times. And so to have something like this come at us so quickly, I'm sure it's just thrown everybody for a loop. And the big question that a lot of people might have right now is, what should I be doing right now, financially, or in terms of my livelihood that way, and like what should I be doing, but also when should I be doing? There's a lot of timing things involved in stuff like this, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely. And for people who weren't as prepared for this to hit, it's still not too late to do things. I would say the first thing people should really focus on is not to panic. There are some safety nets out there, and with some of the new government laws that have been passed, they've expanded those safety nets. So I think most people, the majority of this country, from a median income standpoint, they can replace, even if they're laid off and they have nothing coming in, the safety nets will replace 100% in some cases of what
Right.
they lost, which is great. The challenge, I think, is that it can take. We're hearing reports it can take 30 days before you actually see any of that money, and that's going to create hardship for a lot of people in that short time.
Right. And, like you said, a lot of people haven't, they weren't expecting it,
Yeah,
and they didn't have that cushion. So I'm sure in the short term we can maybe get by, but I think having good advice and maybe some good planning to get to, like, say, all right, the short term we'll try to manage, but as we go further out with this thing, especially if I know that the government's going to help with unemployment, the government's going to help with a stimulus check. All right, so I'll get those things, and then I just have to be really decisive, and I have to be really strategic, and kind of hunker down. There's a lot of things people have to be doing right now just to protect themselves. I'm sure you probably see that all the time.
yeah, they do. People need to move, kind of quickly and decisively,
Mhm.
like you said. And it's interesting, Monsignor. I had an employee from one of our offices contacted me recently, and they were concerned about their own well-being, and they had some properties, and they were concerned that they weren't going to be able to make the payments on their properties because they have tenants who aren't paying, and they had talked to an attorney, and the attorney had told them, "Well, don't get mortgage relief because it'll affect your credit." And I mean, this is somebody in the banking industry, and it just really struck home with me that, if people in the banking industry don't even realize this, then how does everyone out there not realize that? I mean, this is available, that
Yeah.
the FDIC and the Federal Reserve have told all the banks, all the lenders, that if they grant pandemic relief, they're not supposed to report that on the credit. So,
Oh.
so
Wow.
people,
I didn't know that, and that's a great piece of advice, because if I heard that from somebody in a position to know it, I'd definitely listen to that. So to hear you say that, that's a huge piece of good advice. So thanks for that. I'm a priest according to the IRS. We're self-employed. That's kind of how the government treats us, and that's how I do my taxes. And praise God that they've given us a little bit more time to pay our taxes. I'm always a little late on that kind of stuff. That's just me. But what advice is there different advice you'd give somebody who's self-employed? Do you approach this in a different way?
yeah. So self-employed, under the new federal act, self-employed people do qualify for the federal unemployment.
Hmm.
So that's if they're out of work, or like some of these gig economy people, that maybe they drive an Uber or something on that level. They also qualify now under the federal unemployment, so they can get that. Um, Self-employed people also qualify under the payroll protection program loans, so they can also apply for that. And basically, you can get, if you make 30,000 a year as a self-employed individual, you can get 8 weeks of your profit from 2019 paid through the payroll protection program, and that's federally tax free. It's considered a loan, but it's forgiven.
Wow, that's really interesting. So the government has really opened up the spigots.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Boy, oh
Definitely.
boy, that's really something. So, yeah, if there's people out there, if you don't know exactly what to do, I mean, here we have somebody who owns his own bank, and he's in his own business, and he's trying to reach out to people and let them know. If you don't know the answer to a question, find somebody who can give you a good answer, And definitely, there's a lot of things out there right now that you might not know about that you need to take advantage of. So dig down and be strategic. And so there's been so on that. There's a lot of laws that have been passed in a very short period of time, and we've already talked about a couple of the ways they affect people. Are there other things out there right now that, especially in terms of some of these financial things that are affecting us, that people should know about?
Well, yeah, I mean, the number of laws and executive orders that have been passed and in governmental guidance, it's staggering. I mean, the big one is really the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act. That one funds the federal unemployment, which is 600 a week, and that's 600 a week on top of state unemployment benefits. So that's a really generous program. But that CARES Act also that allows people to tap into their retirement funds without paying a penalty. So you can, if you're really in a dire situation and you need to get your 401k, you can do it under this act. You avoid the 10% penalty and you get 3 years to pay the tax on it.
Oh.
You can also borrow 100%, which, I've had a couple of people come to me and ask me about it. And I've said, well, if you borrow, you don't have to pay the tax at all, and you're paying yourself back.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of financial advisors will tell you, don't touch your retirement. But I certainly wouldn't touch it, to pay debts, but I would touch it, to put food on the table or pay your family,
Right.
support your family. I mean, as far as like loans, any kind of loans, credit cards, even the cell phone providers now,
Mm-hmm.
they're all offering deferrals. So you can call your mortgage provider, you can call your car loan provider, you can call your credit cards, you can call AT&T, and you can say, hey, I can't pay my my cell phone bill because I've
Mm-hmm.
been impacted by COVID-19, and
Wow.
they'll give you a deferral. They won't make you pay for 90 days, 120 days, in some cases up to a year.
I had no idea. Those are significant deferrals. Those are some of the big bills that people pay every month, and to know that they have options on how to treat some of that stuff. That's good news. Yeah.
Definitely. And
Uh,
I would be remiss to not mention part of the CARES Act, of course, is the $300 charitable deduction everyone gets to take, which even if you take the standard deduction, you still get an additional $300 charitable deduction under that act for this
so
year.
so practically speaking, how that would affect like a religious organization like St. Pat's or something. So does that mean that people can take, let's say, donate? It's got to be a donation to a charity or to, let's say, a church, but they can do an additional 300 in the calendar year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
correct. And then they can deduct it even if they take the standard deduction. They
Yeah.
still get to take it as a deduction.
Amazing. I did not know that. Well, that's something I should probably let my parishioners know about, huh? I have another question. How can the banks and other lenders help people right now who've had a change or a cut in their income, loss of income? How can banks directly help them right now?
Yeah, so right now, like one of the things we do a lot of car loans out of our office, and we probably do uh, during good times we probably average from 8 to 10 million a month in car loans that we do. We work with a lot of dealers all throughout Chicagoland and Northern Illinois, and so we're spending a lot of our time giving people relief on their car loans. So people are getting to skip 1, 2, or 3 payments on their car loans. It doesn't affect their credit, and they'll just get 3 additional payments at the end of their loan. So, but all banks are doing this now. The big banks like Chase, they'll tell you, don't call us because we're so busy. But there's still, an avenue. You can go through email, and with the big banks, that's a better way to get their attention, at least initially, because I think the wait times are like an hour on the phone. But But all these banks, everyone out there, we all have the same programs. The FDIC and the Federal Reserve have all told us. And one of the things I would say, Monsignor, this is the fourth major economic crisis I've lived through as a working adult. And where this one is different is all the forces are pushing on the same wall for the most part. The FDIC came out and the Federal Reserve came out with guidance right away that said, hey, banks, help your customers. And if they need relief, you can give them relief without having fear that we're going to come in and criticize you for having done that. So it's a very unique situation right now for
Wow.
that.
Well, and I think that hearing things like that gives, I think that offers us a little bit of hope during these uncertain times. So that's a good thing. So bottom line, how do people find dollars right now? All the things you've mentioned. Kind of summarize. Where do people go? How do people find money right now?
Well, besides looking in the couch, right? That's always an option. No, you know what? This is times like this are a great time for people to reevaluate their expenses. Look at things like, well, I'll tell you, like a year ago, we had our cell phone and we had our cable on automatic payment, and I woke up one day and I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, we're spending $700 a month between cell phone and cable. And I just started going down and I said, okay, well, wow, I got, I'm paying for 4 kids or 4 people to have an iPad with cell service, right? It's $15 a month. Do we need that? No, right? Especially now, everybody's at home. You don't need cell service, right? So we canceled that. We canceled. We actually cut the cord with our cable, and we just kept the internet. We had a landline. What do we need that for these days? We got rid of that. We signed up for Hulu. So now we're under $400 a month for cell phone and cable, right? It's a great opportunity to insurance is. I'm sure you've seen the commercials for State Farm.
Yeah.
Well, they're not the only ones out there. If you're working from home or sheltering in place, you're no longer driving 15 miles a day to and from work. Call your insurance agent. You should get a reduction in your car insurance. One of the ones that, memberships is another one. Gym memberships. Those massage club memberships. They'll let you suspend. You can call them and fill out a form through the email and suspend that for a month, 2 months, 6 months. But one of the ones that was interesting to me, we had a nice trip planned this summer, which I'm sure a lot of families did, and when our airfare got canceled, the airline gave us a voucher, and I thought, okay, well, that's fine. But I read then about a week later that the FTC came out and said legally the airlines need to provide refunds. So I ended up calling the airline back, and when I said those magical words of, hey, the FTC says you guys are supposed to issue refunds, right away they said, oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? We'll switch your voucher for a refund. So, if you're sitting here and you've got a $2,000 prepaid airfare for your family, that $2,000 comes in a lot handier.
You bet. Yeah, I had a trip planned this fall, like a mini sabbatical, and they canceled my flight. And I went and asked, and they want to give you the voucher, and I just said no. I know there's something about a refund, and sure enough, now it's under review, but I'm sure they'll give it to me, so they have to. But that's all great advice, Barry. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You're giving us your time, your advice, your expertise. What's the name of your bank, by the way?
We're American Eagle Bank in South Elgin and Chicago.
Yes. Right there in Silver Glen and Randall.
Yes.
All right. Right next to Caputo's.
Right in between Caputo's and Target, so you can get all your shopping.
Yeah, everything right there. Well, Barry, thank you so much. And folks, this is just one in a series, the second in our series of just tapping into just the enormous talent and potential of our parishioners who, at this time of crisis and COVID, they're able to help us in various aspects of our life, giving us great advice, and also just with some answers, it gives us a lot of comfort. So thank you, Barry, and folks, thank you for joining us this evening. God bless you all. Thank you.